What's up, my dudes? 2021 MX versus ATV game. Now, I don't know for sure when this game is actually going to be coming out. I don't know if it's really coming out in 2021. That's just kind of what I would expect, but I'm not 100 on that, so don't quote me on that, but that's just kind of what I'm calling it, that 2021 MX versus ATV game, right? It could be titled MX vs. ATV All Out 2. It could be titled Reflex 2. It could be titled, shit, I don't even know. Like, I don't know what it's actually going to be called, so it's kind of hard to just randomly, come up with a name for it. But, yeah, I just wanted to get in here and talk about my own little sort of hopes and wishes and things I'd like to see in it, because we're definitely at a cool point here where I feel like these motocross games are really starting to take a turn for the better. And it's not just one of them either. It's all of them. Like, MX versus ATV is taking a turn for the better. Milestone is taking a turn for the better. Literally all of them are. Like, I mean, you could even argue, especially if MX Simulator continues down the road of doing more and more pre-made, less and less the road, you can argue that's starting to go down the right direction again, right? And it's weird because I feel like we were all the games were in a really cool place there for a certain amount of time, but then they just all started going backwards. It's like you weren't getting the right amount of content. Just really confusing, like, game development decisions, game design decisions that they made, sort of, business greedy, money hungry, greedy decisions, making like half games that just didn't have the amount of content that you would have expected. A lot of little things like that going on. Obviously back in the Reflex days, MX vs. ATV was amazing. You could even argue, in the MX vs. ATV Alive days, they were still pretty good, right? But then it just started going downhill after that. Okay, so before I get into another, Spencer Turley 30-minute tangent here, let me kind of get to the points that I'm trying to make, the things that I think are super critical, super important to have in this next MX versus ATV game. Number one, first things first, you got to have a track editor, period. You've got to have a track editor, preferably built into the game, but if it can't be built into the game, you've at least got to have some kind of a, kind of sort of like the track editor that you have in the PC version of MX vs. ATV Unleashed and the PC version of MX vs. ATV Supercross Encore track editor that they just came out with. You've got to at least have that in your next MX vs. ATV game, without a doubt. You have got to have that. It's not even a question at this point. Your biggest competitor, the Milestone games, have track editors in their games. You've had track editors in your previous games, I understand it's not on the console versions, but still, Reflex had a track editor on PC, Unleashed finally got a track editor on PC, now MX vs. ATV Encore's got a track editor on PC, so it's just, you just gotta have it, man. I mean, you really do. And I'm not talking about one of those little, console, built for console style Milestone track editors either. That's not what I'm talking about. If you want to really step up your game, really separate yourself from the Milestone games, really make yourself stand out, make people want to buy your game over the Milestone games, you need to put a full-blown track editor in there, not just that little simple, pre-made module piece style track editor, pre-made stadium. Everything's all pre-made. You want to make it to where it's that full-blown. You can import objects into the track editor. You can import decals. You're actually, placing down decals. You're placing down certain kinds of dirt fillings and traction and actually digging down ruts where you want them and making exact jumps like you want them, not just pre-made jumps. That's all very, very important to have in this next MX versus ATV game, in my opinion. It's one of the most important things. And another really important thing is they've really got to get those physics to a better place, right? I mean, we all know about the MX vs. ATV All-Out physics, right? They're not terrible, but there's definitely a lot of improvements they can make. And the best way I can explain it is sort of, it's like going from MX vs. ATV Supercross and MX vs. ATV Supercross Encore. Those are like super restrictive physics, right? You could barely even move on the bike. You could barely whip the bike, which was kind of weird and different from the way like Alive and especially the way Reflex was. They got super restrictive on the filling on the bike, but now they're starting to go more in that direction of freeness. Everybody's like hashtag free the whips, we need this free filling and all that. Well, they definitely gave that with All Out, but I think they went a little too all out in that aspect, and it almost makes All Out feel more like a mobile motocross game or like some crazy, 5 360s in a row over a 5-foot jump, or 7 backflips over a jump. It's just like you can do just such unrealistic things in MX vs. ATV All Out that it kind of loses that, like, what I call reflex realism, right? It's like, and even with the whipping on MX vs. ATV All Out, it just doesn't have that kind of smooth, fluent flow style of what MX vs. ATV Reflex has, and even the, down to the cornering and everything, it just doesn't really have that. It's like they just need to tune it now, They got a nice base going, but they just need to tune it, get it a little more realistic, make it a little more fluent, a little more natural. The whole entire physics need to be a little more natural feeling and not so mobile feeling like they do in MX vs. ATV All Out, right? But not only that, another really cool thing that I think a lot of people haven't really thought about, and it seems like with All Out, they kind of hinted towards this a little bit, kind of started to do this a little bit, but the whole, custom bike graphic, custom gear graphic creator in the game, right? Kind of like a, like the paint job editor thing that they have on some of the Call of Duties out there, specifically some of the Call of Duty Black Ops games, right? How you can go in there and fully do a paint job for a weapon camo in some of those Call of Duties. That's what I'm talking about, but being able to do that for your bike in the game. So being able to make your own custom graphics, your own custom designs on the bike, your own custom gear. I should be able to go in there and totally make my own full-blown custom Galaxy gear. I'm going to have to go in there and kind of make it out of little objects and stuff like you would making a, Call of Duty Black Ops custom gun skin or whatever, but still, I think you should have that ability to do that in a motocross game. You should be able to go in there and put whatever kind of logo you want to put on the bike, whatever kind of color, whatever kind of, you can put together. You're kind of putting together different layers of objects. You guys know the kind of editor that I'm talking about. A lot of car games have that sort of paint job editor type thing, customization thing. We really need that in a motocross game. We really need that for not only the bike graphics themselves, but also the gear. That's going to be a really important aspect to it, and being able to put your name and number wherever you want it, any color, design it however you want it, design the gear, the pants, the whole 9 yards, make your own custom helmets. Oh my God. I can't believe I didn't think about that sooner, but it should be everything, every aspect of it, the helmet, gear, boots, goggles, gloves. Everything should be able to have your own custom, paint job, custom graphic applied to it. You know what I mean? So being able to go in there and make your own Galaxy helmet, if you can make a really cool custom helmet, being able to share it with the community, having a whole, it's kind of like how you would have a custom track type community area for the game, but you would also have a custom bike skin, custom gear, custom helmet area for the game as well. And like I said, they've kind of hinted towards that a little bit here with MX vs. ATV All Out, being able to, custom color certain THQ Nordic helmets and gear sets in the game. You can kind of color different aspects of it and, stuff like that. They've kind of hinted towards that a little bit, but it's nowhere near what it could be or what it should be with the whole full-blown custom, paint job editor, custom bike skin editor, custom helmet designer inside of the game, not just being able to import your own custom stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being able to make it all inside of the game with an actual, gear, helmet, boot, bike skin customization thing in the game. That's going to be so important. I mean, I'm telling you, if they don't do it like within the next year, there's going to be some motocross game that's going to do that at some point. I promise you they're going to do that. Like, so it's just a matter of time, really, but I'm just saying they need to do that like sooner than later, right? So, yeah, that's another really big aspect. So those are some of the main, like, heavy hitter things I think that MX vs. ATV could do for their next game that would really separate them, really make them something cool and different, really be fully competing with the milestone games, and just keeping that same content grind, right, that they've had with All Out. Keeping all that same, like, full-blown motocross championship, full-blown supercross series, full-blown, like, free ride areas, full-blown freestyle areas, keeping some of the different vehicles in there, like the ATVs, UTVs. It'd be cool if they kind of added in monster trucks. I know they came out, THQ sort of came out with that whole new, like, monster truck game or whatever, but it was like its own dedicated game. So they're obviously capable of making monster trucks. I mean, let's remember what MX vs. ATV used to be. It used to be freaking badass, where it was like dirt bikes, ATVs, monster trucks, airplanes, golf carts, helicopters. Like, it was the whole 9 yards, dog. So I just think that would be really cool if they at least had monster trucks, full-blown monster trucks in the next MX vs. ATV game, because they're obviously capable of making monster trucks. They made a full-blown dedicated monster truck game like not that long ago, so I don't think that would be a very hard thing to do. I just really think this next MX vs. ATV is going to be like really comparable to more on the level of like a Reflex, or more on the level like one of those old school MX vs. ATV games like Unleashed or Untamed or something like that, right? I really, really just have that ambition and that feeling that it's going to be something more towards that level. I think it's going to be a really cool game. I think it's going to be very worth your money. It's going to be one of those, like, I just really think with All Out was just a big stepping stone in the right direction, right? Like, I don't really feel like All Out was like the MX vs. ATV game, or like, oh my god, MX vs. ATV is finally back. Like, yeah, they're doing a lot of really good things, and they're making a lot of really good progress, and obviously with the AMA Replica National Pro Motocross tracks, you've got, a lot of cool stuff, a lot of content in this game, a lot of DLC going on, a lot of cool things to MX vs. ATV All Out. Free whips, freestyle, different vehicles, a lot of stuff, right? We're making gains with MX vs. ATV All Out, but I feel like MX vs. ATV All Out is just the stepping stone to that amazing, on the level of Reflex or whatever you want to call it kind of game that we're going to be getting with the next MX vs. ATV game. So that's kind of what I feel about it personally. So, yeah, that's some of the, like the main heavy hitter things there that I wanted to talk about here. And obviously they could, make their whole like campaign single player aspect of their game a little more exciting, a little more, some kind of story to it or something. They could definitely, like I said, go down that whole road of doing and I think I made a whole video on this, but going down the road of where you start at, you start at Loretta Lynn's, you got to prove yourself. That's like the start of the campaign. You start on a small bike, like a 50cc bike, and then work your way up to an 85, and then you got to, do really well at Loretta Lynn's. Maybe they have like 2 or 3 amateur national tracks like Loretta's, Ponca City, Mini-O's or something like that, and then you race all 3 of those like multiple times. You race all 3 of those on the 50, and then it, picks what kind of team you can get for the 85, and then you race all those races on an 85, and then you get a team, and then you race all those races on like a 125 or a 250F or whatever, and that depicts what kind of team you're going to be on once you move up to the pro ranks. I mean, we could have the most mecha motocross supercross game you've ever imagined before. Like, we're so close to that. It's just, they just got to put a few things together, and I really wish we could get that official, AMA Pro Motocross game that's mixed with a official Supercross game, right? We really, really need to get that game at some point. That would be the most amazing freaking game you've ever imagined in your life. Like, I know there's a lot of limitations to it. I know it's probably never going to happen. Let's just keep it real. But, like, good Lord, if they could make all that happen, that would be so cool. And then being able to, like I say, go through the full, like, realistic sort of campaign style where you're starting on a small bike at Loretta Lynn's and all the amateur races, and you got to move yourself up, and then depending on how good you do, you might get on a full-blown factory team or like a mid-tier team like you know, the Rock River Yamaha or Rocky Mountain ATV MC, KTM, or it's like full-blown privateer bike, and then you got to really work yourself back up to it in the pro ranks, kind of do like a Weston Pike mode in the pro ranks and move yourself back up to a full-blown factory team. It would be so cool to have that, all of these things that I'm talking about in one game. Like, could you imagine, bro? Oh my gosh. Like, that would be the game of all games. And then on top of that, having it more like reflex style physics, and then all that other kind of stuff on top of that. Woo-wee. I'm getting a little too excited thinking about a game like that, dude. You could literally have the arcade motocross game of all time, like hands down, freaking blow reflex plumb out of the water. And then if they really get into that, like making the different dirt compounds and the different terrain deformation fillings, depending on what kind of track you're on, you know, whether or not you're on a sand track or a dry hard pack track or a muddy track, you know, that would, and then really having like different weather effects, like they've got to do some sort of combination game to make that happen. You know, Milestone and THQ Nordic and MX vs. ATV are going to have to come together to make this super motocross mecha game, right? They're going to have to, because you got to take elements from the MX vs. ATV games and then take elements from the Milestone games, the graphics from the Milestone games, the rain mode from the Milestone games, but take the physics from the MX vs. ATV games, take the, you know, some of the track designs from the MX vs. ATV games and kind of mash and mix all that together, and you will have, and take the official Supercross license of the Milestone games, take the official Pro Motocross National license of the MX vs. ATV games and smash all that together. Oh my God, bro. But either way, hopefully one day we might be able to get something like that. I don't really know, though. So either way, definitely let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this whole idea. But I don't know. I think that's definitely the ticket, though. But if they can't do that, then definitely adding just some of these other things that I mentioned into the next MX vs. ATV game would be really important. So either way, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dude.